Welcome, everybody, to the Mando Fan Show. We are back, baby! It has been a long time since the Mando Fan Show has been here. About a year, but if you really want to go Mando style, it's been a couple of years. So we found all our set pieces. We put everything together, and as you can see, the Mando Fan Show is back, baby. I'm John. Thank you for joining us on this awesome show that we're going to talk all about. Chapter 17, The Apostate of The Mandalorian, Season 3, written by Jon Favreau and directed by Rick Famuyiwa. Podcasting tonight with me, as always, is James Baney and Lacey Gilleran. How you guys doing? You guys amped up? I already know our scores, so I know how we're feeling. But are you guys just excited that the Mando Fan Show is back? It's TRB Live, but it's its own flavor. It's different.
100%. Yeah, I watched this episode and it really made me feel like Star Wars is back. Like there were things just about it that
James said that this morning in a text to us.
Oh yeah, I did. I said it to you guys. I was like,
big spoilers. I didn't know Star Wars was back. And then James is like, guys, Star Wars is back. And I'm like, dude, come on.
I mean, I don't know. It's maybe it is just the live action aspect of it. But you know, I'm thoroughly enjoying Bad Batch, but I'm not feeling like I don't know, like, oh, Star Wars, you know?
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden when I was watching this episode, there were just so many things that happened that I was like, that is Star Wars. Like, I don't know, just got very excited.
Yeah, Mando is like my comfort character. People say it a lot online, and I've always been like, oh, I don't really have one. I think the Mandalorian is my comfort character. Like, as soon as he's on screen, I know it's going to be a good time. I know I'm going to leave the episode smiling, and this episode was no different. I think it was a perfect kind of introduction, bring us back into the Mandoverse. Just seeing like familiar faces, similar name drops here and there, and just seeing Grogu again. It's just like a straight smile nonstop for, 35, 40 minutes. It's such a good time. And we're going to get into it, but I felt like this episode in particular was everything that I love about Star Wars. So for James to say Star Wars is back, for me, I 100% agree, because this episode had me laughing. I was kind of like on the edge of my seat. It was exciting.
Oh, man.
And that's what I want from Star Wars. I want to leave feeling like I can't wait to do that again. And that's what I got from this episode.
Yeah, I agree. And we're going to get into it. I completely agree. I feel like it ran through so many different tones and emotions, from light to serious and like sort of ominous in certain parts, and then absolutely silly in others, action packed. Like for a 34 5-minute episode or whatever, it brought a lot, especially for something that's supposed to just set the tone. So, and full disclosure to our audience, typically at the end of the Mando Fan Show episodes, we speculate on the next week. We were fortunate enough, the three of us, to be able to see Chapter 18. We are not going to talk about it on this, so do not worry about that. But of course, because we've seen it, we're not going to be speculating on that, because that makes zero sense whatsoever. Before we get into it, and I know what you're waiting for, everyone, I want to see your scores in the chat on the Pedro Pascal face scale. That's coming. But before we do that, I just want to say, if you don't mind taking a moment and liking the video and subscribing to our channel, we are steadily approaching 2,000 subscribers. So thanks to everybody who has joined us on this new channel that we've had for just a couple of months now. YouTube.com/@the-resistance-broadcast if you're listening on audio. And also we have the super chats. If you want your comment read on the show and reacted to by us, we have the super chats available for that. And thank you for those in advance for anyone who will be sending those. And last but not least, shows like this, doing it live at the quality we are trying to do it for you all. We couldn't do it without our Patreon supporters. So all of our resistance officers over there, thank you so much for backing us and being behind us and believing in us. And if you're thinking about it, or you're debating on, oh, is this the right time to join the TRB Patreon? It is, especially today, because after this show, we are heading right to our live Q&A where we're going to be answering all sorts of questions. Some Star Wars stuff, of course, but you can ask us anything in those. And some of the stories that come out are pretty interesting, to say the least. But yeah, if you want to sign up for Patreon, patreon.com/resistance broadcast. Tiers start at just $5 a month. A lot of bonus content on there, a lot of benefits, perks. We have a Discord server, a lot of awesome stuff that really shows what our community is all about. And last but not least, if you have an audio podcast app you love, follow, subscribe, and rate us. We appreciate that so much. And that's enough with the plugging. All right, it's time to do some rating, and we're going to get into the Pedro Pascal face scale. Now, if you're new to our show, how this works, each of us rated the episode 0 to 10 Pedros. And you're going to see on the screen what that means in a moment. You can use halves as well. And then we're going to average those together and give you our score. And then we're going to check in and see what our patrons score this episode as well. We always like to see if we're on par with where they're at. And we're going to read some of their comments on what they felt about Chapter 17, The Apostate. A great reintroduction back into The Mandalorian. And away we go. So to kick things off, I will start off by saying this episode from me got an 8.5 on the Pedro Pascal face scale. I think, like I said at the top, it's a great reintroduction. It's launching us to these new adventures and stories. So certainly the episodes that come after are going to build upon this. And it just, for a first episode, when I compare it to the other first episodes, I think it holds strongly with the rest. But I'll say visually, aesthetically, they've taken it a step up. It looks great. The special effects look amazing, and credit to Rick Famuyiwa and of course Jon Favreau and the team for all of that, and everyone at ILM. Great job from that perspective. It looks like they really are taking the show to another level. Maybe they were pushed a bit by Andor to step it up in terms of the scale and feel. But James, I'm going to toss it to you. I'm 8.5. Where are you at with Chapter 17 on the Pedro Pascal face scale?
I'm going 8. I was thinking about the comparison that you just mentioned too, like how it compares to like the first episodes of the seasons, and I still say season 2, episode 1 is like incredible. Like
Big
that
time.
was
Yeah.
a total short film, you know, all the way through. So it didn't live up to that, but I was thinking about season 1, and season 1 was just kind of straightforward. It was a good episode of The Mandalorian. It gave us the Baby Yoda moment, but you know, you can't let that totally throw you know what I mean? All that is the introduction of this cultural phenomenon. Just the episode itself, you know, had a cool moment where you got to see a baby version of this species. So thinking about that, it lined up. I felt like this episode wasn't necessarily like the best season premiere, and I don't think it would have been a very great season finale. It just felt like a really good, solid episode throughout the full season. So I'm excited. I thought there were a couple weird points, but mostly a lot of really awesome, strong, exciting points. So 8 overall.
Nice. Solid score. Lacey, how about you? What's your score to kick off season 3 of The Mandalorian?
I gave it an 8.5, and I know people are going to be surprised because it's not a 9 or higher, and it's because what James said. I looked back on the previous seasons and I thought, you know, how did I feel with chapter 9 and the excitement of Cobb Vanth and the monster, the Krayt Dragon, everything didn't match up with this one. But I did give it a very high score because of my favorite moment and/or several moments. But there were a couple moments throughout the episode that I was like, okay, this is obviously going to be here for a reason, but right now it doesn't really make sense, which we've said before with kind of rating these episodes episode to episode and not the full season at once. It's kind of tough just because they're building a story and they're building kind of story arcs with characters and different things. So it's you're seeing things happen and then kind of filing them away, being like, okay, this is going to come back later. But currently, when you watch it from beginning to end, there are little pieces that you're like, okay, well, what was the point of said thing? But I loved it. I'm not kidding, smiling from point A to point B, like from start to finish. I was so pumped to be back talking and seeing. I was talking to myself mostly at like whatever 6 a.m. or whatever it was, but laughing and just having a good time with The Mandalorian because it's one of my favorite things about Star Wars.
Nice. All right. So our scores average together comes out to an 8.3. There, look at all
8.3.
those Pedro Pascal faces. Look at all of them. Not The Last of Us anymore when you have that many Pedros on the screen. That's for sure.
That's true. They're multiplying.
Right. Like a fungus. A very, very good score for us at 8.3. Solid, especially for a kickoff episode, which is more of a just to lay the groundwork. But now we're going to check in with our patrons who were just a tick behind us with an 8.2, James. There it is.
8.2.
So a little, a shave less, Pedro, but another good score nonetheless. And checking in on some of the comments from our patrons, we're going to start with Adam Furley, one of our newer patrons. And Adam said 8.5 Pedros. So right on line with me and Lacey. He said, great start to the season. I think it sets up well for what's to come. I can't wait. Neither can I, Adam. I'm very excited about that. And then we have Megan Poehler. Hi, Megan. I'm not sure if you're joining us live tonight. I know you pop in sometimes. Also with an 8.5 on the Pedro Pascal face scale. Megan said, I agree with everyone, which are all the comments that were on our Patreon post. That was a solid start. I loved everything about it. Only complaint was that it was a little short, but I know the more intense stuff is coming. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there will be longer episodes, and who knows?
I noticed that like right away when I looked at it. I was like 35 minutes. I was like, ooh, that's it's a little short.
Little short, but you know, maybe that's all it needed. You know, we'll see. I'm sure there'll be longer episodes. Maybe there'll even be shorter episodes in the future. We'll see. The Mandalorian doesn't really stick to a certain template.
Right.
So you should just try to serve the story there. All right. So now what we're going to do here.
Well, do you want to do a couple people in the chat?
Yeah, sure. We can do some scores in the chat.
So first we have Kendall, who gave it an IG 11 out of 10.
Oh, nice. Nicely done.
And he said the reasoning because this episode had everything: humor, wonder, excitement, foreboding, droids, and Zellans, and some of our favorite characters across many visits. It was everything I could hope for in a perfect open. Thanks so much, Kendall. But on the other side of that, we had Ryan WAARA, hey Ryan, who said 7 out of 10 Pedros. And his reason was, as a premiere, I felt it lacked a little bit, but I think we're starting the season in the basement, and it's going to build every week. Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it.
Nice. Yeah. I mean,
typically
literally
I found that
trying to head to a basement at some point. So.
Yeah, typically I've found that almost every season has started really big, and then that second episode sort of slumps. Have you guys noticed that?
Yeah. Well,
a little bit.
I don't know.
It usually picks up.
Yeah, I feel like
I don't know. The spider episode was very scary for me. That was
and I think chapter 2 is aging better for me, just because
that's true too. Yeah.
We understand Grogu more, and I think seeing him initially use those powers is a lot different than when we initially saw it. But
and then I was also thinking Book of Boba Fett as well, like as far as the premiere and then also the second episode. Actually, both of those were a little lackluster to start a series.
Was that the lizard one, the nose lizard?
Yes, that was the first one, and then the second. Well,
no, it was the second one. Wasn't the nose lizard second?
Was the second one where he was on the train then? Yeah, I think so. I thought that was, I don't know. It's kind of confusing. They all kind of ran together. It was a lot of Boba Fett digging in sand and stuff.
Yeah, I think the first Boba Fett was where he was digging in the sand and that sort of claymation monster popped out.
Goro thing came out. Yeah. But then I was trying to remember if it was the second or the third where he was on the train. And I think
that was the second one. Yeah.
It was the second one? Yeah. So maybe that picked it up a little bit, but
yeah. What's nose lizard? Why am I not remembering nose lizard?
Where he sucked a nose, like the lizard into his nose.
Oh,
big tree
that was. Oh yeah, I think that was.
That was later.
That was the first one. No, people
said
it was
the first episode.
At the end of the first.
Oh wow!
Really?
We need to rewatch Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah. The only one I've rewatched is the last episode, which most people dislike, but it's my favorite. All right, so let's get into the Mando code for this season. That's right, the Mando code is back. It's our season-long giveaway contest. We're going to reveal a number on each episode, and on our season finale episode, we'll reveal the final number and how to submit your guesses to win the Mando code bounty. Now, the grand prize is, Lacey's going to show it to you here, is a Star Wars Black Series, the Mandalorian Ahsoka Tano Grogu action figure 3-pack. Yeah, back there.
over
And
there.
also a Resistance Broadcast logo t-shirt. And we might add to this bounty as our journey this season goes along. But make sure you're keeping track of the code. Don't share it because you want to win it. You don't want someone else to win it. So if someone's like,
Sure.
hey, I missed Mando fan show. What was the code? Be like, that's not how bounty hunting works. Go find it yourself. So between you and us, the first number in the Mando code is 7.
Write it down.
You like that Friends reference?
No, I don't like Friends.
I got it.
I don't like Friends either, but I do like that part. James, I actually think you brought that up on like an
I
episode.
did recently. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So before we get into anything further, which would be our main discussion and breakdown of the episode, Lacey, do we have any super chats?
We do. So thank you to Gary24fan for your super chat. Really appreciate it,
Hey,
Gary.
thank you.
He says, can we get a big amen for a Star Wars pirate finally saying avast?
Avast.
Amen. Yeah.
Amen.
That was very cool.
I looked up that character's voice because it sounded so familiar to me, and I don't recognize the actor.
The name,
like the voice actor. I already forgot his name that quickly.
I got it.
I mean, I looked it up earlier today, and it was like I was expecting it would be like someone, oh, that's it. All right. But it was just a person that I didn't know. And I was like, oh man. And I looked up videos of that person talking, and I was
Marty
like, that's definitely the voice. What?
Okay.
Marty Matulis.
That's if that's what you're seeing on IMDb, that's the actor inside the body.
Oh, I've seen that in the credits.
Voice. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But the voice is someone else.
Interesting.
Well, I don't know. We can look it up, but
Gorian Shard is played by Nanzo Anazi. Are these real people?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was like,
these are better Star Wars names than some of the recent Star Wars names. Just let them use their normal name. Yeah. Right, we're gonna visit this pirate. His name is Nanzo Anazi.
Yeah, I agree with Luke in the chat who said that strong Davy Jones vibes. Yeah, it totally felt like ILM was like, yo, let's get Davy Jones back in here, but like not Davy Jones. That's totally the vibe I got.
I hear that in a weird way too, and I can't explain this because his voice is his voice, but it almost sounded, I was like, is that James Earl Jones? I was like, it wouldn't be. It doesn't make any sense, but it had that tone to it or something to it where I was like, I'm pretty sure it's not him, but I don't know. It just sounded so familiar. But
thank you.
Well, before we get into the main discussion, we do have one more super chat. Thank you so much, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
And Paul, I know you're watching with your daughter, so hi, how's it going?
Hello.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for your super chat. He said, hated seeing Bo-Katan so dejected. Hope she comes around later in the season. Great episode overall.
Yeah,
me too.
Thank you, Paul.
I laughed to myself because you said dejected, and I pictured the way she was sitting on that chair, that throne, which was so unnecessary. Like it very much read to me like Paul Rudd in that, like, what's that summer camp movie where he's just like, ugh, like with the dishes. Do you know what I'm talking about? What's that? Wet Hot American Summer.
Wet Hot American Summer.
Yeah, where he's like, she's like, put the dishes back on the cart, and he's like, ugh, ugh. Like that's where I got for it. Like I got very like teenage, like fine, like I don't want to be a Mandalorian. Like it was just very like over the top. I get it though, because it kind of was like she was draped over this throne. But for me, it just it seemed very funny based on how Katie Sackhoff carries herself. She's very fit. Has very good posture. She struts very well. So to see her like uncomfortably like laying,
I feel like that was kind of comfortable because I used to sit with like my leg up on. We had this big like couch chair thing in college. I used to sit with my leg like over it. Like I don't know.
I'm not saying it's not normal to sit like that. I'm saying it's not normal for Bo-Katan to sit like that.
Sure. Yeah, I bet they went through like a bunch of different options.
Katie. If you're out there listening, tell me if that position was comfortable.
I kept just sitting straight and like her legs like just together, just like this. As Mando walks in, he's like, "What are you doing?"
She's like, "I've been waiting here."
I kept thinking about like her eating at some point, like sitting on the throne, like it's been all day, and she's like, oh, "It's about lunchtime. Better."
She pulls the tray around.
Yeah,
she pulls the TV tray.
Exactly. The
Dude,
droid even brings in that thing, and she's eating on the throne. I don't know. It
like
just seems so
how.
funny.
Like she has all those windows and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think in one of the teasers, there's like a shot of her looking out the window and it's like raining or whatever.
Right.
It'd be funny if she was doing that and then like she sees him like flying in and she like runs over to her chair to like get on her chair. She was like doing something else,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
cleaning or dancing around or something. She's like, wait,
Well, I
wait.
It's
feel
like
like
there's an announcement and it's like somebody's coming and she like is
like,
like running
okay.
down the hall, like trying to get back there as soon as she can.
Let him in.
Yeah.
I do want to mention though, someone did mention this in the chat, and I feel the same way. Analeo, awesome name. Says Bo-Katan's hair is looking much better this season with like a all right hand symbol. And that is the first thing I said to these guys in the morning. I was like, her
It
hair
is.
looks great.
And I didn't notice it, but I saw her and I felt more comfortable with her, whereas before in the first season I thought there was something off with her costuming.
Her hair looks so good.
And we kind of got to the hair thing and I was like, yeah, I think that's it. I didn't notice it till you said it, but I was like, I think that might be it. I think it
And the
looks
headband
better
isn't
and she
so
looks more
bulky. It's like nice.
normal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
But sorry, we can now transition into like a full conversation. I don't know if we were going from like the beginning to the end, or if we want to start at the end.
So
Let's do our favorite parts.
Yeah, we
Oh,
don't
sure.
have to. Yeah, we do not have to. Like, we never go chronological here. We don't need to tell you what happened in the show. You know what happened. But we always start things off with the quick shot, and that is our favorite moment or shot from the episode. We're just going to give you a couple sentences as to why we picked that particular moment, and we always do our best to try to each pick a different moment. But we're going to kick things off with James this season. So James, chapter 17, did you have a favorite moment or shot from this episode?
There were quite a few, but I think the one that had the most real reaction for me was a moment where I actually put my hands up like this.
Yeah,
I was watching it. There were so many times where I was like, I wish I did record myself watching this because I'm having real reactions to this. And
Can I tell you, I did record myself this morning, guys, for our patrons. I'm starting to do that. I recorded the whole episode. I had a towel on my head because I got out of the shower and was like, you know what, let's just do this casually. I recorded the whole episode and I get to the end to go rewatch it and I had no sound. My microphone like wasn't routed properly through OBS, so I lost the whole episode. But let me tell you,
meant. Okay, I thought you meant for something else.
So it was showing me the thing, but it wasn't properly whatever. Anyway.
Right.
But let me tell you, I immediately texted at that point because even in the recording, I said, James is somewhere losing his mind.
Yep. And that's the moment is this moment.
So don't worry, Travis in the chat who said no one was excited for space whales.
So James, for the audio listeners, what is your favorite moment?
It is when we saw the Purgils in hyperspace. And
man.
I went back to and was trying to listen to see if there was any like musical cues there, like hints at what could be coming, but I didn't pick up on anything. It still felt very Mandalorian soundtrack. But I think this is those things where you've put so much energy into something else, into another show, to see it referenced or hinted at being able to come to life. It puts so much relevance back on that show. Like, you're getting payoff for spending the time with us 8 years ago, or what, whenever Rebels was going through its process. Man, 8 years ago, that's crazy. I think like 8 years ago is when it like ended, if I'm not mistaken.
No, 6 years ago.
6 years ago. All right. Yeah. I'll take your word for it. Yeah, it was just absolutely incredible. And it felt like I was totally in on something that a lot of people, I mean, obviously you guys and listeners of the show and everything, we all know what's going on here, but so many people are going to be like, what is that? And it's like, I know, I'm the one who
it was a very cool, like, he.
And it's this big setup, and it's like it's the weird stuff. Like when Rebels came out, everybody was like space whales and oh, it's so weird and stuff. And now it feels like this big payoff. Like, oh, they didn't take the cool stuff. They took the weird stuff and they're bringing it to live action. And
James, let me ask you
so much to it. I just felt so happy in that moment.
Before now, Lacey and I have
real. That's what I felt like. It's real. It's really happening.
Yeah, I feel that way anytime things cross over different mediums or timelines and stuff. Like seeing the N1 for the first time in this era was wild. But do you think this was just sort of a Filoni's like, I want to throw some Purgles in here, or do you think this has any connection whatsoever in terms of destination as to where Ezra and Thrawn went? Is it connected, or is it just there's some other Purgles flying through hyperspace?
So here's where I stand on it, is that if Ahsoka wouldn't have mentioned where's Grand Admiral Thrawn, then I would probably say this is just an Easter egg. This is just something cool that people are supposed to look at.
A wink,
but it's
a Dave Filoni wink.
Exactly. But it's so evident that they've cast Sabine for the Ahsoka show, and she said, "Where's Thrawn?" That's a setup. They're looking for Thrawn. Then they show this, the Purgles, and it's like, oh, they have to explain who Ezra is. What happened to Thrawn? How did he, what's the story here? And this is just another way to sort of throw into the live action world these hints that, when somebody says, maybe they don't explain it. Maybe they're like, well, who's this Ezra guy? Oh, you should have seen it. There were these space whales and he got trapped and they got sent into space whales. And it's like, yeah, then it's easily recognizable. They could say, well, they were in season 3, episode 1. You saw them over there, and people can like connect it. And it doesn't feel like people are then missing out. They don't have to watch all of Rebels because they can kind of get the gist of a story from someone who did, and they feel just as connected to it because that's there. It's like it just feels like it's all setting up for that direction of they're going to end the Rebel stories in this world, most likely, obviously, over in Ahsoka. And this is part of the plan. It's so good. I love it.
Yeah, and as we go through this episode and like talk about the different pieces, this was definitely a scene to me that stood out as, first of all, that's awesome for people that love Rebels. I mean, Rebels is great, but I'm saying like people that are super fans for Rebels that love these little glimpses here and there. This was a moment that was like screaming in your face. But also you'll see, I feel, in this season so far, is Dave Filoni and the writers are doing a very good job of explaining difficult concepts within Star Wars through the eyes of Grogu. So within this episode, they do a lot of explaining hyperspace and navigating and all these things for someone that might not know what this is. They're saying Grogu doesn't know what it is either. So don't feel bad that you don't know. And also him going through everything with Mando and going through all these scenarios, there are moments where the main characters are talking to him, and it made me feel like, oh, this is for someone that just likes this show, that maybe isn't a big Star Wars fan, that they're explaining without explaining. You know what I mean? Like they're telling Grogu so that you don't feel like you're left out, but at the same time, you're seeing it through his eyes.
Yeah. And the moment I saw it, I was like, Purgles. I was like, I knew it immediately.
Yeah, you knew exactly. Yeah.
And it's
so I did think it was like a giant ship for that very first scene. I was like, what is that over there? Is there going to be something like...
I wish we had your reaction, James, because I was thinking in my head what it would be, and I just know that it was literally like, no.
Yeah, I was just saying, oh my God, a lot. I was like, oh my God.
Well, there was also like Grogu's, like they played that sort of like lullaby sort of
his theme.
wonderment music. Yeah. And everything like slows down, and then he's like, all right, this is too real for me. And he like ducks down and he gets into like the cabin with Mando, who was sleeping. So James, you had called that a long time ago too in that shot.
Yeah.
Heads like that. Yeah. All right, let's move on because we still have to get into our main discussion. So let's get to these one-shotters. Lacey, what was your favorite moment or shot from chapter 17?
So no one's going to be surprised by my choice either. I feel like people that have listened to us for years are like going through these episodes being like, yep, James's favorite.
Yeah.
Yep, Lacey's favorite. Yep, John's favorite.
Yeah.
And I'm sure nobody's surprised. My favorite is the Anzellans, is the Babu Fricks, if you will, of the universe that are there, the droid smiths.
Awesome.
And that entire scene is everything I love about Star Wars. It is that kind of magical creature shop, puppeteering, ridiculous, funny moment. You have Mando kind of crouched in this little workshop. You have Carl Weather being like, they're saying this, and like they're clearly saying that. And he's like,
that was the funniest part of the
It
whole
was
thing.
such a good exchange. Grogu squeezing him, and he's like, "Bad baby, no squeeze, bad."
Yeah, I
Yeah,
like
bad
that.
baby. Yeah.
Bad
Now that
baby.
I have a baby, these hit even harder for me because there are multiple times with our cats that I'm like, "No, no, 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 don't squeeze. No, 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 no." Like, it's just really funny.
Yeah.
The puppeteering was amazing, and John pointed out this to me. I haven't had a chance to like really dig into the behind the scenes stuff, but John pointed out that they did have Shirley Henderson come back, who did the original Babu Frick in The
Yep.
Rise of Skywalker, to do the voices for these ones too, and that's why they sound so similar, which I love because fun fact about her, not only is she extremely talented, she took time to learn how to puppeteer this puppet so that she could properly do the voice and act out within the scene with the actors, which I just think is like perfection.
It felt like, obviously it's comic relief.
It was just such like a Muppet, George Lucas, Star Wars moment. Like it just meant a lot for me. Like from the moment they looked down and the little door was in the like walkway, I was like, that would be perfect to add to Galaxy's Edge. It would take no effort to add a little door and a little.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
short term.
Nothing has to be there. Just a little thing that says in Arabesh and
Droid
Zelen
Smith.
droid repair, droid
With
Smith,
a window
yeah,
or something. That would be hilarious.
yeah.
And it's like a short term recency nostalgia for Babu Frick, who like we just met 4 years ago, and we're like, oh.
And I think that's
such a good
important. I
character.
saw this and I thought, you know, the people that don't like Rise of Skywalker or they never saw it, there's a chance that they do enjoy this, and then they piece together things and they go, oh, maybe Rise of Skywalker isn't so bad, you know, or something like that.
I'm not gonna lie, I watched this scene thinking this might be one of my funniest scenes in Star Wars. We did this recently. I think in the past year or so, we did like top 12 funniest moments in Star Wars. This is my number one.
It was one of
I've
our
watched
Kessel
it
runs.
50 times today.
It like, if you think about the little doorway and the varying different puppets there, like absolutely Jim Henson, but like specifically to me, it made me think of like Fraggle Rock, because
Yes.
you got that little pathway and you have to crawl in there to get into that room,
he's
and
just
then
sitting
there's
in
just
there
all
like-
these different puppets just around, and they're clearly these tangible things. It was such a cool little reprieve from the plot, and it was just like, yeah, it's part of the story because he needs the part to fix IG-11. I get that, but it was just a nice little like, let's just have some fun for about 3 minutes.
Mhm.
And
If you looked inside my head as a Star Wars person, that's what's in my head. That Droid Smith workshop.
And Carl Weathers just leaning over and obviously doing
So-
those translations that you didn't need is just so funny.
And Carl Weathers is clearly in the scene, but it's like when you think of Mando sitting there like squatting down, and it's like the three and Zelen saying Grogu, it's like 4 puppets. It also sort of took me to Empire Strikes Back Luke in the hut. Like, you know, he's ducked down and then you have like Yoda like
Yeah.
you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's like this actor is crouched in this little space working and talking and trying to
But
make
then
it
multiple.
real, have a conversation with this Muppet, you know. It's pretty wild, but it's like, that's Star Wars, man. That's why we like it.
Michelle
They're
said
like-
it best in the chat. She said, I've said, what do you want?
Yeah.
Little guy in these
I feel like they're like an old Italian family working at like a pizzeria, and they're like,
my favorite line. He goes, "This is my friend," and it goes, "Not your friend anymore."
yeah, right, yeah. Yeah, he kind of said the same thing with like C-3PO. He's like blank,
And all
blank,
his-
but he said broke.
Yeah, but all the buddies started laughing when he said that. Not your friend anymore,
Yeah.
and they all start laughing.
Yeah, and then he's like, "You get part, we fix." It's like, all right, sounds like a good deal.
Sounds like my
all
mechanic,
right.
honestly.
Good part. I was gonna pick that, but we're not doubling down here. So my other favorite part, which I feel like, you know, did that thing I was alluding to before, which is like blending eras of Star Wars, because this reminded me of The Empire Strikes Back and also the prequels, Attack of the Clones, was the space battle in that asteroid field with the pirates and Mando, and you know, every aspect of it, because it had humor, it had high action. It had suspense to it, and the special effects were outstanding all the way through to the final shot where he sort of blasts off Han Solo style when R2 fixes the hyperdrive, is what that reminded me of in Empire. But seeing him evading the asteroids, and initially with that type of ship made me think of Obi-Wan in Attack of the Clones when he's
Right.
ironically going
Yes.
against two
Boba Fett.
Mandalorians in Boba Fett and Jango Fett.
Jango
And then also some of the shots he was doing evasive maneuvers like Han did in the asteroid field in Empire. And then you add the
And in
pirates
Solo.
to it. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And you add the pirates to it, who you had a Trandoshan in there. You had I forget the dog species, the ones that look like bulldogs. And then you had obviously the main pirate there, and they lead him into the main boss.
Vase sucks, that main pirate guy. He sucks.
Yeah. So his name is Garion Shard. And that whole thing like looked really cool. I love the makeup on that guy. I thought that was awesome. And then seeing him sort of like get miffed that he just missed Mando, and Mando saying "Dank Ferric."
He's coming back. This was one of the moments that I was like, okay, why are they introducing this guy?
Yeah, we're not going to see. That's not the last we've seen of them.
I don't know.
For sure.
I kind of thought this was like a great like Jabba the Hutt moment, where like you just have
which
this
might
cool
be true
thing.
too. I just feel like there were a couple moments in the episode. This was one that I'm like, okay, this guy's going to come back eventually and cause more trouble.
Yeah, it's like the prisoner episode. That gang like resurface. I feel like with the Western motif that they're going for here, things always come home to roost.
And Rick
things
did
always
this
come back to
one,
bite you.
and Rick's doing 7 and 8, so I feel like
yeah, it's true.
Yeah. So they'll play a role at some point. I don't think there was anything just accidental or momentary about that.
I gotta say, I loved this guy. Like this reminded me of Captain Kennedy. Like it was just like we got this moment for a second, and we're like, more of that. Like that sucks that we only got just a little bit. I was really excited about this guy, and I think he was possibly my favorite moment. I have to go with Purgils, but I loved the puppeteering on this. Like the fact that you cut to this scene and you've got this like giant contraption character that is like walking around with the cane and and I'm like, oh my gosh, man, this is so cool.
It's a lot of fun and really cool. And I know one of my bold predictions from our episode on Monday, if you haven't checked it out yet, check it out if you want. I said Grief Karga is going to die. I think these guys are going to go back and kill Grief Karga.
I mean, they do have a very big like chip on their shoulder from him, because he wouldn't let them drink in the school.
Yeah, right.
Which is a little weird still.
And was that the first time we've seen it called a bar in Star Wars? And people get so like upset about earthy terms in Star Wars, but he's like, it used to be a bar.
that moment felt so real to me in a very stupid way. Like I could honestly see like real police like talking to people, be like I don't know how to explain this to you. It's a school. It's not a bar, or whatever.
Right.
And it's like, not to me. And they're trying to be all tough and stuff. And it's like, oh my gosh, like people are so stupid. And it made me like hate these pirates for being dumb, but yet like aggressive, like still a threat. I'm like, oh my gosh, how do you deal with people like this who just insist that this is a bar and not a school anymore? They can't see the positive here. Like, oh my gosh.
All right, so before we now just have an open chat overall about the episode, let's check in with some of those super chats.
Yeah, so we have a super chat from Soonerthron. Thank you so much. Who said, how many years passed? Armor has like 25 recruits. Bo-Katan needs recruit better than she has a castle. Armor has a cave. Killer rocks. Space whales. Nice. I love the end there. Nice. I think Favreau said that it was about 2 years, right? He had said 2 years.
He clarified it today or yesterday at the premiere. He said it's almost real time. So Book of Boba Fett is a year after Mando season 2. So he spent a year with Luke. And then now Mando season 3 is them being reunited for a year.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, thanks, Soonerthron. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Micah's
buddy.
up next. Thanks, Micah. Super chat. He said, space whales.
Space whales. Yes,
I get
thanks,
it.
buddy.
I get it.
Appreciate it, man.
Then we have Kyle Beckworth. Cal. What up, Kyle?
Hey, Kyle.
Thanks for the super chat. He said, did you think that the beginning of the episode was a flashback to Din's initiation before he showed up? Great episode. Bang.
It crossed my mind. Yeah, bang. Oh my gosh.
The only I would have if
Yeah.
we didn't see the armorer and Paz Vizsla, if it was just other Mandalorians in that kid, I would have been like, oh, that's a young Din Djarin. But for some reason, she just looked like she looks now.
Yeah.
And I feel like if it was a flashback, they would have changed her look a bit so we understood
Or
that.
it's a different person. I think she's the same age as Din, no?
I mean, roughly, I thought that was another aspect too. Is she seems about the same age, roughly. So if he was a kid, she would be too young.
Mhm.
And that
she
was
doesn't come across like way older.
that was the kid who played the Tusken kid in Book of
Nice.
Boba Fett. It's Jimmy Kimmel's nephew.
Huh.
Yeah, do you guys
the
were you reading any
Nepolorian.
rumors about the point of this kid or anything? Like, I don't know what you guys think. Is there
I think it was just
anything around
someone
this kid?
I think it was just the kid, and they're showing that they're trying to rebuild.
They're trying to rebuild and
Okay.
also shows the risk of the monster about to eat a kid. Like that's
Yeah, it did
Well-
seem to keep cutting back to Paz Vizsla though multiple
Yes.
times. So,
Yes. Awesome. Thanks, Kyle.
if
Appreciate
anybody
it.
knows about the
Thank you,
rumors.
Kyle.
Then we have Chibigon89. Hey, Danny. And she asks, thanks for your super chat. She said, the scene with the Anzellans just cracked me up, especially Din going, Grogu, no.
Oh, tell me about
Yeah.
it. Like every day of my life.
Yeah. Guys,
Thank you
so
Danny.
much.
Thank you. So I want to kick things off with two things. One, we just brought up that sort of timeline aspect. Man, people are getting so chapped about the whole timeline thing. I just can't. I want to be real quick on this. I just don't understand that because, like, 95% of the people who watch the original trilogy have zero idea there's a 3-year gap between A New Hope and Empire, or a year between Empire and Jedi, because both those things start as though it was not that long. You know, Luke still doesn't know what he's doing with the Force. Han still hasn't paid off Jabba. And then Return of the Jedi, at the end of Empire, he's like, we'll meet on the rendezvous point at Tatooine. And then they waited a year? Like, it's just like, I think people just need to, like, just dial it back a little bit. I don't think it's that big of a deal. And I think people are going to forget all about this sort of thing. Sort of like the controversy with the Grogu and the eggs. It's just one of those Mando things that comes up every year.
Can I ask though? Because I totally agree with you. What is the kind? I didn't see this. There's people that are mad that time has passed
so much so that Favreau had to be asked to clarify it yesterday.
He's been asked about it by a couple different outlets. So
he
had said in like some type of roundtable or something amongst a couple people that the time had been a jump of 1 to 2 years. He was speaking casually. And a bunch of people
I did get that. What?
The controversy was that people were upset that they didn't think like that should have been the time, or it wasn't clearly said, or I don't know, it just didn't seem believable.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's all seems totally fine to me. Like,
my response is, it's his story. It could be 10 years, 2 years, 3 days. It doesn't matter. It's his story. That's my response.
Yeah.
Tell me how many years are in between episodes 2 and 3, and then maybe I'll let you have an argument.
Yeah, right.
Because right now I don't know that. I think
9.
it's between 2 and 3.
Oh, I thought you said 1 and 2. 2 and 3,
No,
isn't it like?
no.
I don't know how much.
See,
that is.
it's just it's fine. It's totally fine.
They've just made so many stories. It's hard to tell at this point. Yeah,
that's the one that always gets me though. That one's kind of tricky.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah, but so the beginning of the episode, you're seeing how these Mandalorians are just like not doing well. They're getting this thing comes out of the water. She doesn't even get to finish this kid's initiation, and this croc beast comes out, and
it looked like a snapping turtle.
They're getting manhandled and annihilated by this thing. And then when the N1 shows up, it feels like when people are in a Superman movie, when like a building's falling and it's about to land on a baby carriage or something, and all of a sudden the theme hits and Superman flies in a blur. It was like this epic entrance that felt like a classic, Christopher Reeve Superman movie or something. And I thought it was so cool because it's like they're just again reminding us and setting the table that like the Mandalorians are not doing well at all. Even his own faction that he believes in. And he's this just chosen one that's there to be the hero and be the savior.
Regardless if they want him or not. That's the thing, is he keeps coming back.
Right. But I like the fact that it's very on the surface. They're just like, it's hero time. here's Mando to save the day. And I thought
Mhm.
that
And the
was
way the
such a
music
great way
kicks
to
in.
reintroduce him. Yeah.
There's little hints of it, and then when he finally lands and that cockpit opens up, doo-doo, you know, or whatever,
Yeah.
it's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, wow, we're here.
Right into the title.
We've
and
landed.
Grogu's
Yeah.
like,
he's like, "Hi, I'm here." Yeah. I think he likes like he's a little dramatic with his entrances, Grogu, because he's always like hiding somewhere and then popping up.
love
Like,
it.
Oh,
just so you
right.
know,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was so cute. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so Bo-Katan. Let's go back to Bo-Katan because, well, overall, I'll say I think everyone like brought their A game with this season. I think Grief Karga. I think Carl Weathers like had some of his best work
Droids
so far in
pulling
the
his
series.
robe behind him.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, the droids were hilarious. Having his little droids that carry his
Yeah.
rope.
Yeah,
Such a
but
funny detail.
he had the funny moments, but he also had some serious moments as well. That I don't know that we got that from him in terms of a performance quality in the first two seasons. So I feel like he really is bringing it in this season. And then Katie Sackhoff, like I think she's taken it to another level. And James, before we recorded, you had mentioned that it really felt like she has purpose here, and she like it feels important that she's here now. Whereas maybe in season 2, it felt more like here's
Cameo.
Bo-Katan
Yeah.
because you want to see her.
Yeah. I want to go back and like revisit those episodes again, because when I just pull them out of my memory, it almost feels like a really cool cameo. But now, having seen this episode, it feels like there's just so much of the story with her in the castle and sitting on the throne. And
It's pretty epic.
I don't know, it feels more like, oh, we're really going somewhere with this, you know?
Yeah. It feels like the stakes are high and that there's just this like there's this like tension brewing and we know something's about to pop and we're just not sure when. And it I don't know, just she seems like I thought she was so good in this episode. You know, and I thought I loved her in season 2 too, but just seeing like the dialogue and how she delivered it with such conviction. I don't think she even blinked. Like it just like she
What was the
just
line that I loved? She said, poisoned, ravaged, something else. Like she said like 3 or 4 words back to back that like totally, I was like, that was beautifully said. Like she says every single syllable.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
she
she
was
has
like,
a lot of time to practice it.
apparently she has no friends either. She has just a droid. I think
Yeah.
honestly, when I saw them exchanging with each other, I was like, I'd like to see a romance between them. I'm being honest. I'd love to see it.
I could see it. I could see it for sure.
I would like to see that. I think
I
she's been
couldn't
alone
see it
for a
right
long
now,
time.
but I could see them going that direction if they chose to do that.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
because they have the whole thing where she like clearly is like, get away from me. I don't want to talk to you. Like, get out. And then
Yeah.
he's just like, hey, I need your help. She's like, no, get out.
Well,
And I think it's an interesting dynamic because she comes from a place of like just more strong energy than he does. And he seems so stuck in his ways. And she's trying to kind of open his eyes. And we've seen that in previous episodes too, where she's like, you leave your helmet on? Like, why?
I
Yeah.
mean,
But
for her, I feel like she has a personal grudge against him because
Yeah.
she has every right to have everything. Like she was the princess, she basically ruled, and she saw Mandalore in its prime, and she held the Darksaber at one point. And if there's one group of people that she hates the cultist. And here is this guy, and he keeps owning her. He keeps coming back, and he keeps like topping her in one way or another. And now he's got the Darksaber. She's just like, get out and let me wallow in my pity.
yeah.
As people in the chat, Steve is saying, damn, Lacey really wants some romance. You're right, I do. And so I'm looking for it. And I think
Well-
Din deserves some happiness and romance. And I think Bo-Katan also does. And they have them on every poster together.
Right.
So if
So that
Star
was the
Wars
thing
is
I
going to do romance, you have 2 people, similar age, both care about the same thing, both looking to save Mandalore. Come on. Come
yeah,
on,
I mean,
Favreau. Come on.
there's that one officially released image from I think it was Empire, and it's like the 2 of them with Grogu in the middle, and it looks like a family photo.
The ones they released today, where it's one half of her helmet, one half of his helmet, make one helmet.
Yeah, a
And then there's
dyad.
the
of
one
them.
where they
Favreau.
were kissing.
Right.
No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, I wish, but yeah.
Yeah. But I also love that she's so dismissive of the Children of the Watch.
Yeah.
She just
yeah,
like
yeah.
basically just calls it nonsense. And he's just like, well, look, I got to do this. So what do I got to do? And she's like, look, man, if you want to, go for it. But here's where it is. Go there.
But that's what I'm saying. He meets her energy with such like a, okay, whatever. But like he's very strong and stubborn, and so is she, but in different ways.
Yeah. Well, he's stuck. He's so stuck on the creed of the Children of the Watch that
Because it's all he knows.
He feels like he needs to, like, this is a kid who is like an orphan, and like what happens to an orphan more than anything is like they want that belonging, and they want, they're afraid to lose that family that took them in because they were already left once before. It's inherited. It's in there, and his mind is so focused on getting back in their favor because that's all he ever knew.
It's called trauma.
And then she comes along and she's like, yeah, that's all garbage. She's like, my family
It's all you've ever known. Yeah.
Whole place. We know the deal.
I just keep picturing like somebody who's like next in line to be president, and they're like, I love Washington, D.C., but one problem we have is like gangs and cultists. And then like cut to years later, and it's like Washington's demolished, and like you're the one sitting there, and there's like one cult dude comes back and he's like, we have to rebuild the city like how we had it. It's like, no, you're weird. You're the crazy one that we all hated. We all hated you. Why are you the one that's trying to rebuild this? Can't you see
he has the dark saber
demolished?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's so nuts.
Yeah, no doubt. How'd you guys feel about seeing IG-11 again?
I thought you were going to go very different with that. I thought you were going to say, how'd you guys feel about Cara Dune being mentioned?
Well, we were going from knock that out too. I thought that was
perfect.
That they just said it. Yeah, she was recruited by Special Forces. Bang.
Bye. See you later. Yeah. I thought it was perfect.
Yeah. I don't know what more they could have done. The only thing about it was in that moment, it felt like I was only hearing this line because they have to address
a throwaway. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, it's not really that important, and then I was like, but Dave Filoni's comments about it and stuff, it is sort of important. You got to mention it. So I don't know. It felt a little odd, but at the same time, it's like, I think they probably handled it as best they could. They didn't downplay the character or anything. They just kind of addressed why she isn't Marshall, right? Like, I need a Marshall. What about Marshall Dune? Like you already have a Marshall. No, she had to leave. So
Special Forces is the new owning a deli in the Star Wars galaxy.
Yeah. But IG-11.
IG-11. So real quick on that, like if he comes back and Taika's in the credits as the voice, so he was back doing that, which is cool. And if he comes back, it's also sort of honoring Queel, because Queel's the one who reprogrammed IG-11 to be sort of the nanny butler droid that they sort of became attached to. So it's honoring that character that a lot of people forgot about, that we used to call Ugg because of Nick Nolte. But seeing IG-11 was really cool, but that was a little scary when they fired it back up and had the old mission protocol. And it was just, that thing was that was like the Terminator. That was like the Terminator.
And
it was obviously the Terminator. Yeah.
It also felt very Walking Dead to me. Like I can't remember what specific like episode it was, because I'm not a gigantic Walking Dead fan, but I know there's a part where it's like half a body is just crawling, and the main characters are like, "Oh my god," because it's like even when it's dead, it's not dead.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It was creepy. It was definitely creepy. Poor Grogu.
I liked this scene, but I wish it was a little bit different, because Mando felt very incapable in that moment. Like
they've been throwing around Grogu a lot in this season too. This episode alone, they like keep throwing him.
Popped up. IG-11 popped up. He started shooting, and he starts shooting at it, and then it falls over, and it's crawling on the ground, and everybody's like, "Shoot it!" And he's just shooting it. Shoot it! And he's shooting, and I'm like, "It's 2 feet in front of you. Hit the dang thing,
Right."
And I think there is one shot where it looks like the bullet like deflects off or something, but maybe not, because he obviously shot it in the original first episode, and it just damaged him. So I don't know.
Diana says it
felt a little incapable.
Yeah, Diana said it was in the chat the first episode of Walking Dead. That's why I know. I've only seen the first episode of Walking Dead.
And yeah, he gets back into the corner. He throws Grogu, which is a little weird, and then the droid knocks over the thing, and Mando's got like an 80s action film line. That's using your head.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
big time.
what is
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
What am I watching right now?
I
That was
loved
very
it.
Arnold. Yeah.
I
That
loved it.
yeah, very Terminator. And I thought it'd been funny, and maybe he did and I missed it because I only got to fully watch it once. I skimmed through it before because I got home late. It's a long day. But if he was like Mando shooting it and you just see IG-11 just goes like initiating self-destruct mode.
Yeah, I was surprised they didn't go that route because I was like, that was such a funny joke. It'd be a callback.
Oh,
That's
so
the-
good. He's like,
that's
no,
the real danger, not this thing grabbing his leg. You know, I was like, if he initiates self-destruct, then it would immediately have escalated that situation, and they needed to deactivate him quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
Nick
didn't.
asks a good question here where he says, but he didn't mind it, but he also doesn't understand its existence. Why wouldn't a new memory chip not bring in the IG he wanted anyway? I don't know. It's one of those things too that this was one of those moments I said earlier that I was just kind of like, okay, what's the point? And I think the point was to get him to go on his journey, right? To get him going.
Yeah. I mean, it's, no one's ever really gone, Nick. So,
Oh my God. We do have some super chats.
Yeah.
Do you want to get through some of them?
Yeah.
So we have
let's go.
Luke, aka Count Pepto. What up, Luke? Thank you for the super chat. He said, "What's up, TRB?
Thank
My
you.
new bold
up, man?
prediction: Mando removes his helmet to reveal a Chandler haircut, specifically Chandler from season 1. Bang."
Chandler Bang.
Got it.
Thank you so much. And Paul's back again. Hey, Paul, how's it going? He said, anybody else think Din is going to get the memory circuit he needs from IG-88? Maybe have him take him down to get it.
I mean, that'd be cool. I don't know what the status is of IG-88 at this point in the Star Wars timeline, but why not?
Yeah, it's not a question for me. It's a question for Filoni, honestly.
No, hold on. IG-88 was seen shooting at Sabine or possibly Jyn Erso in one of those adventures, Star Wars with Maz Kanata things.
Oh, okay.
Forces of Destiny.
Forces of
Destiny.
Oh,
I
you're
think.
right. Yeah.
So I think
Good
that
pull, James.
IG-88 is still around for this.
But
Well,
if it was
actually, that would be
Jyn-
before.
Yeah, it'd be before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Good pull.
I know
Good
IG-88 is in.
For some reason,
oh,
I was thinking Fallen Order timeline.
He was in Shadows of the Empire.
Maybe
but
it's
that's
because
not
I'm
canon.
reading.
Oh yeah, reading the new book. Yeah, I don't know.
Awesome.
That'd be cool.
Well,
Why
thanks
not?
anyway, Paul. Thanks for appreciate it. Awesome.
And
That's it.
Thanks to the Sullivan family for watching today. Appreciate it.
Yes. It's always a good time.
So, I know people had issues with the episode length, but I think, like I said, I think those will fluctuate. But other parts that we need to dig into here, it was pretty segmented. So you had the Mandos with the initiation, him saving the day. Then you had the Navarro. Then you had the space battle with the pirates, and then you had him going to see Bo-Katan. So a pretty straightforward episode, but I think it's like laying the foundation bricks of where the story is going to go. So overall, I thought it was a really strong episode, and I just really enjoy the fact that it took all the elements of Star Wars and put them all together and gave us like the laughs and gave us the seriousness and gave us the lore connections and gave us the connections to animation and expanded upon a bunch of characters and brought back characters. And then when you sit back for a second and really zoom out and look at the Mandalorian, it feels so familiar, but it's like in a very short period of time, 16 episodes, and you include Book of Boba Fett, of course, too. They've made these characters feel like we've known them forever. And that's Jon Favreau just really slowly and methodically developing these characters. And like we go back and think about season 1 and season 2, and people are like, it's the adventure of the week. Oh, this is just another adventure of the week type of show, and that's a filler and stuff. And it's like, yeah, but then everything sort of has a reason, and then you find yourself way more attached to these characters, whether they're villains or good guys, just in terms of like as a Star Wars fan being attached to these characters more than we realized. And it's like he incepted us with the storytelling. So I just think they're doing such a good job. And the fact that, we've talked about this, he's already written season 4. And now we're seeing this stuff, knowing that he has already wrote the story for season 4 as this plays out, gets me excited too, because that's again more of like the plan in place sort of thing. So I'm really excited to see where it goes. I think this is a really strong episode to kick off the 3rd season. I laughed, but I also was like wowed, and there were some moments where it was like tense and stuff like that. And I know there's a lot more coming.
Yeah, there were a
I'd like
couple
to-
moments that
Oh.
we didn't talk about yet, which was, and I'm looking at my little notepad.
Oh, before you bring it up, let me make
yeah.
this point real quick, because
Sure.
I'd like to see the math on how long, what is the runtime of Mandalorian compared to every other, or like all the movies, like
Mhm.
episodes 1 through 9 get that full length runtime of, I don't know, I'd probably say somewhere around like 20 hours, right? And then
Mhm.
it's like, how long before Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett as one whole entity sort of takes over that? And I'm like, you got to be close.
Like 5 seasons probably. 4 hours a season.
But it might already be there if you consider. Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah, some are probably like 30-minute episodes roughly. So
but it is also
it's close. It's close.
And movie storytelling is a lot different than TV storytelling.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so it's hard to, like making a direct comp is going to be tough to do, but I see what you're saying.
And also too, like, just that's also sort of in a way like 3 different segments. Like that's Anakin's story, that's Luke's story, that's Rey's story, right?
Yeah.
But this has continually been like Mandalorian,
like
and
if
like a little bit of Boba Fett's story. Like, yeah.
Not to, I guess referencing like Carl Weathers, like if Rocky was a TV series, like the training montage would be like 2 episodes.
Yeah, it would have been just setting up for.
Yeah, there would have been one episode where he's just eating raw eggs, and they're like, okay, okay, catching the chicken for 30 minutes. All right.
Mhm.
Lacey,
Yeah,
what do you
so
got?
I don't think we talked about Mando at all. Was that in this episode?
Nope.
Well, she's teased, so she's probably coming at some point.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was in this episode. Oh no, someone just mentions Boon to Eve in this episode. I have on my notebook.
So
but that's the other thing I was going to mention, is that what Carl Weathers had said was they brought up the New Republic, and he said that he doesn't want to be ruled by some far off bureaucracy. And I thought that was very interesting, because it's tying it back to the New Republic and tying it back to like Carson Teva and the Rangers, and like,
oh yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see where that character shows up. The other thing that really stood out to me was the Kowakian lizard monkey. So I don't know if anybody remembers this, but back in the day, before Mando came out at Celebration 2019, they showed us a clip of Mandalorian before anything else. And it was about 10 minutes. And it was the Mandalorian walking down the streets of Navarro. And in the outpost, there were these Kowakian lizard monkeys that are in a cage watching other ones get roasted. And it was this moment that I'll never forget, because everybody in the audience went, no. And I was just like, oh no. But in this episode, they show them free and in the trees and like living their life. And I just love that.
Yeah. And there was an interview from the premiere, I don't know if it was Filoni or Favreau, who said, like, you never know. It's possible that Salacious Crumb survived, just like Max Rebo did. And that sort of thing. So imagine that. Imagine Salacious Crumb comes back at some point. Not necessarily in the Mandalorian, but that he survived somehow. That'd be awesome.
Right.
Be
that
so
would
cool.
Be good.
But
that
it was cool
really
seeing them in the trees, like these little like annoying jerk pests, almost like the 2 old men in Statler and Waldorf in the Muppets. They're just up in the balcony, like laughing at you. Like they're just
the Navarro.
It's one of my
Navarro
favorite species in Star Wars, Kowakian monkey lizards. I think they're so great. Even the steroid jacked up one, jacked Kowakian monkey lizard in Resistance.
Yeah, they I haven't felt this excited to go back and look for the Easter eggs in Navarro since the very first episode.
Oh, the chef droid with the knives. Remind me of the prequels
Yeah,
where
that
he's
was
like
really
the
cool.
street vendor.
Right in
He
the
had all the
streets
knives.
of Navarro.
Oh, was
Yeah.
that here? Because they
Yep.
had one in Book of Boba Fett too, didn't they?
I think so, but
They
they
might
had
have.
one in
No,
this
Yeah.
episode
no.
too.
It was in Obi-Wan, wasn't it?
I'm
Well,
not sure,
Obi-Wan,
but
he was
see that.
working at the meat factory, so that might have been that.
the other thing, the Anzelin says
was that
poodoo,
at?
which made me laugh.
Yeah.
Little stuff like that.
What am I
Yeah.
thinking of? There was like a scene where somebody goes back to like a kitchen and there's like a droid chopping and they're like trying to capture somebody.
Oh, that was Obi-Wan.
Was that Obi-Wan?
Yeah.
I
Anyway.
love
Yeah.
that droid.
Yeah, that
All
is
the
cool.
knives.
That's the future of hibachi. They're
It's a
gonna be
hibachi
robots.
table. Yeah.
Humans have no chance. We got the Terminator. We got hibachi robot chefs. We're in trouble. We're in big trouble.
Everybody in the comments is saying it was Book of Boba Fett. That
Was
happened.
God.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back and watch all this stuff.
Everything
man.
is blurring together.
That's the
Well,
Boba
I guess
Fett
that's not
Mando
necessarily a
episode.
bad thing because it's supposed to be an extension of it.
Yeah. We do have a super chat though that I want to grab
Sure.
real quick just because Aaron's heading out. He said, "Gotta head out, but it was such a good time and I'm looking forward to more Mando fan show." Thank you so much, Aaron.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks
Appreciate it,
joining.
man.
Wow.
All right. Anything else? We're obviously not going to speculate on next week. So next week we'll speculate on the next week. But
Guys, I know where it's going.
yeah,
I just want more Ancelins. Give me like more of that. More puppets, more creatures. And I feel like this episode had a lot of that. Whereas in past episodes of not just Mandalorian, but in the movies, in Obi-Wan, and Book of Boba Fett, there's never enough creatures to make it feel like Star Wars. However, there were a couple moments in this episode that I could tell that they were reusing actors and extras and aliens. So just be careful, because I was like looking in the background to see like what Easter eggs there were, and I noticed that they had the same people kind of walk in and out of set, which I understand, but kind of takes away from it.
Yeah. I mean, it's again, this is like every aspect of Star Wars put together in a nice little blender, and it's good. And you know, I'm not gonna say more on this, but and I tweeted this out because we were lucky enough to see Chapter 18. Like, if you liked this episode and you like Mando, that next episode, just taking every aspect of it from this to the next
Yeah.
one. So
I'm glad you said it, because I was like debating on whether we wanted to say that or not, but I'll say it now. I liked episode 2.
I can
better than
confidently
1,
say that.
and I liked 1 a lot.
Yeah.
So it
and
I don't
one
know, that's
helps.
kind of why I said that thing earlier about like
18.
most of the time it seems like 2 dips a little bit.
Yeah.
I was like, this is definitely a break from that, because I like 2 better.
Yeah.
Cool.
So get excited.
I do see that someone said, someone in the chat said, what did we think about the music? Because they did, Ludwig's not doing the music anymore. It's
Right.
It's Joseph Shirley who did Book of Boba Fett. I didn't. I mean, I think there's so much of Ludwig's themes that it's hard to like could tell much of a difference. So I thought it was good because there wasn't anything that distracted me, which is always good. I think whatever he did sort of supported what was going on screen, and I think that's really what you want. And it seemed like a lot more traditional, and I thought it was more traditional than Book of Boba Fett was, I'd say.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like the Natalie Holt score with Obi-Wan, where like it was actually somebody else who handled all of the familiar themes, all the John Williams things. Somebody else would come in and do those particular things. When you think of the Obi-Wan score, you think of when those moments pop in, but Natalie Holt, who gets the credit for doing the score, was doing everything kind of in between those moments where you really like recognize that music. In this case, this person's handling both situations, but the big standout moments that you're like, oh, the music, it's that familiar Ludwig score, songs we've heard before. So but I do think that everything felt fine. There wasn't any point that I thought like, why is this music playing, or something was weird. So it's definitely being held down perfectly responsibly.
Yeah, I think it's fine. And they, like Favreau said, he wanted to have a sort of a slightly unique sound for the music of Mandalorian and Boba Fett, so that you knew like, oh, that's for what they're doing.
And we mentioned it earlier. I don't mind that they played the Grogu theme, but I would have maybe thought it was cool if they played like a little
Rebels deal,
like little ding ding, or something,
Yeah.
just a little hint at something, because it's like, when you see these, this is from this.
But then people would have been like, "Oh, that means this is a tied to the Purgles that Ezra flew off into space with."
And that's why it makes sense, and it's totally fine that it's like, let Grogu shine, because this is his perspective. Lacey, you nailed it perfectly. Like, Grogu doesn't know what this is, and most of the audience doesn't know what this is, so it's supposed to be like, play that music there, the curious music.
And I want to get, I assume they're going to do a gallery on this, and maybe they won't go back to season 1 where they do one for each episode, but I would love seeing how it came to be, where it's like Favreau's writing the story and he's like, and then they're going to go through hyperspace to get to where they have to go next, and Dave's like, dude, this is a perfect spot to slap some Purgles there. The fans are going to go bananas, but it won't take people who don't know away from it. And Favreau's like, all right, man, let's get some whales in there. I want to hear those conversations and how they put their heads together, because that's obviously total Filoni. Favreau's not going to be like, yeah, let's get some Purgles from Rebels in the background of this space travel.
I'm seeing in the chat someone saying they don't even remember the Rebels themes. It's that dun 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 dun. They did a version of that. It starts off with the dun 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 dun, which is obviously John Williams, but it's like a new variation of it. So that's the Rebels theme. But I was poking more for like an Ezra theme or a Thrawn theme or something that they could sort of hint at. But again, if it was Kevin Kiner doing the score, he would have probably done that. But it wasn't. So he didn't need to pull from his. He didn't need to recognize that piece.
Right.
Or anything.
Right.
Yeah. Any final thoughts before we hop out of here? We have to head to our Q&A next.
No, I think this was a great episode, and it's just getting started, guys. It's pretty awesome.
Agreed.
I think this is going to be a great season.
I think it's going to be the best season of Mando ever.
I think that could be true.
I don't think that's a bold prediction either.
No.
So no bang. All right. Well, we want to thank everybody for listening, watching. If you join us live, thank you so much. Love everyone's contribution to the live chat. It helps us think of other things we may not have thought of, and you all make amazing points and sometimes much better than we do. But we want to thank you for being a part of TRB. That's what it's all about. So appreciate it. Again, make sure you subscribe on your preferred platforms, and of course the youtube.com/@theResistanceBroadcast. And if you are a patron, we'll see you in a bit if you're around and available for our Q&A. We're going to go answer questions about Star Wars, about life, about food. Who knows what these questions are, but we're going to answer them on the spot live. So if you haven't yet, patreon.com/ResistanceBroadcast. Hop over there, sign up, join us.
Come on.
Let's have some fun. And before we get out, a special shout out to our generals and spice runners. CARMELO, John RISI, JETTA Rosewater, Frank Grande, Darth Hurricane, Nick Kratz, Christian Morales, Brian Smith, Matt CHITTY, DANI, Mike Rumore, Matt Heath, Brendan McLaughlin, Count Pepto, Sneaky Zebra, Paul Sullivan, Aaron Ellington, Diana, Ivar, and Micah Harrison. Thank you, generals and spice runners: David Probus, Neil Shaw, Kendall GELNER, Ryan WAARA, Dave Hornak, Thomas Hennessy, Andrew Staley, Jeremy Myers, and Michael Fry.
You guys are awesome.
James, where can people find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, both at Myra Trunks.
Lacey.
People can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Lacey Gilleran, and on TikTok at It's Lacey Gilleran.
At Johnny Hoey on Twitter, and my movie podcast, Just Like the Movies. We're doing a pod on the original Scream. Should be out on Tuesday. So come check that out if you're interested. We'll be back next week to discuss Chapter 18 with our guest Kevin from Toying Around and the podcast Boba Squadron, which he co-hosts with Paul Sun Young Lee. And he's going to be joining us to talk Chapter 18, but also we'll see you Monday with another episode of the Resistance Broadcast. So until next time, we'll see you patrons in the Q&A, and everyone else, we'll see you around, kids.